Last year, I was in the most vulnerable time of my life. I had just broken up with my boyfriend of 5 years because he didn't seem to want to move forward. I was laid off from my job processing medical insurance claims, where I was climbing up the ranks quickly, or so I thought, until all of a sudden they announced the layoffs, and I had just lost my best friend Dallas to a random drunk driving accident. Dallas was the complete opposite of me. I'm meek and timid. She was the voice for both of us. One night, when we were walking home from the bar, 2 guys wouldn't stop creeping on us. They followed us for what seemed like forever, until Dallas whipped around, pepper spray in hand, and said, "Now boys, you've been following us for some time now, and neither one of us has expressed interest. So the manly thing to do would be to admit defeat and bid us a good night. But if that sounds too easy, we can take the hard route, and I can spray a little of this and move on." They mumbled and ran. In that situation alone, I would have just ran. I could tell many stories about how great Dallas was, but that's for a different type of video. After Dallas's accident, I moved into her house. I know this sounds crazy, and at first I didn't think I could do it either. But Dallas was also a prepared person, and when she bought that rundown place, she began flipping. She named me as the executive of her estate in a will she had drawn at the time. "Leave it to Dallas to take care of me after her death," I said, hugging her mom as I took hold of the keys she was handing me. "She knew you would take the best care of it and make it into something she'd be proud of, sweetheart," her mom replied. With tears in my eyes, I started moving my things in 3 weeks after the funeral. It was bittersweet the first day. I was excited to own a house at the young age of 25, but also I would give anything to give her keys back and move back into the teeny efficiency if it meant she was back with us. I suddenly found myself in my dead best friend's house, surrounded by boxes of my stuff. I felt weird unpacking. It felt invasive somehow, and I couldn't bring myself to move what was left of her things. I was holding a photo of her and I she had framed on the mantel, when I suddenly felt a blast of cold air from the right of me. It was as if a literal snowman wandered in and stood next to me. I started shivering in the middle of July in Texas, with no air conditioning on. I set the picture down out of self-preservation. I had to move around before I froze to death. Later on, I was running a bath in the master bathroom suite, the only room Dallas had had the chance to renovate, when the faucet stopped completely. "Okay, I guess a hot bath for the sore muscles is out of the question," I said. I was about to drain the tub when the faucet handle started to move slowly and the water started back up. I laughed because that was something Dallas would have done to me. She was always trying to annoy me in any way possible, and I missed that. That night, I was laying in bed reading a few emails when I heard a crash from the living room. I got up to go check it out, and I was surprised to see all the pictures from the mantel on the ground. But they weren't broken. They were just rearranged on the floor, in chronological order. First was our first ever picture together in 1st grade. Our moms had picked us up from the first day, and we were instant besties and demanded a photo be taken. Then was our 4th grade Girl Scout trip photo, followed by our high school prom photo, graduation, and first day of college. Those were some of her favorite photos, and no matter where she was staying, she kept them close by. By this time, I was thinking of the possibility of something paranormal, but Dallas never mentioned anything to me before about the place being haunted. If you're about to ask, but couldn't Dallas be reaching out to you? At this point, my stupid self thought ghosts were all century-old spirits with tons of anger over major events, like wars or something. But back to the story. After safely piecing the photos all back up on the mantle, I headed to bed and got as comfortable as possible. The next morning, I was sitting at the small dining room table, eating a quick bowl of cereal, when the coffee pot started brewing on its own. I hadn't even thought of having coffee. It always made my anxiety worse, so I only had it sparingly. Oddly enough, that's when it hit me. It was Dallas. She had to have her coffee every morning, or she didn't function. Dallas? Is that you? I asked out loud, feeling a tad stupid for talking to a coffee pot. A few seconds later, her favorite coffee cup moved slightly to the left. I sat there for probably half an hour weeping. I knew it was her reassuring me she was there. I had never given a lot of thought to the paranormal world before this, but Dallas and I had always joked that whoever died first would haunt the other for life. So I guess this means you're going to haunt me for the rest of my life, doesn't it? I said out loud. Since then, I've had so many signs from her. I know a lot of the time the stories on your channel are spooky, but I had to share my experience with the ghost of my best friend. That's just it. When people think of the paranormal world, they're often too scared or closed off to be interested in learning more. But it doesn't have to be a scary experience. Sure, we like hearing spooky stories, but it's about so much more than that. Thank you for sharing your story with us. I'm so sorry that you lost Dallas. I've lost a best friend, so I understand how hard it is. If you have a paranormal story, share it to the email in the description below. Please give the video a like and subscribe if you haven't. It helps immensely. And with that, see you tomorrow, friends.